So yeah, this is part 4 of my Amouage A-Z. Like I explained in part 3, it's not quite A to Z now because obviously there was the big break and I got more fragrances. And this one is primarily focused around the Exceptional Extraits. These have been out for a while now, and there's 2 new ones which are obviously in here. What I've tried to do is, I've got all the originals actually, funnily enough, of them all, so I've tried to compare them a little bit, but talk about them more standing on their own, and whether I think they're worth it or not. I'm not a paid influencer. I bought these samples. Whew! I'll tell you what, you know, you need 2 livers to sell, because yeah, for samples they weren't cheap. But I've enjoyed it and I wanted to sniff them, and this video is my experience. Because I want to talk about them, not for any other particular reason. And I think, you know, having an unbiased view of them is quite good. I haven't been sent, you know, the travel sizes to pick my favourite to get my free bottle to say nothing interesting about other than the listed notes. These are, you know, my honest opinions. And as we know, Amouage is one of my favourite houses, so I was excited to try these, but maybe they were disappointing, maybe they weren't. Anyway, let's get into it. So Dear 40, now I am a big fan of the original of this one. I think it's beautiful. It's that kind of nod back to the 80s and what have you. So yeah, we'll just get straight into it. This one opens with the gorgeous soapy aldehydes and an airy musk. There's a touch of the cyclamen, if that's how you say it, and the rose. There's also the citric aramis, is it? Amaris? You know what I mean, that kind of citric resin kind of feel that does come through from the base, with a nice touch of the orris. I am hoping people can hear me with this, because it's, yeah. As it develops, there's a slight pissy feel, which maybe comes from the black currants, with the aldehydes growing more and more ozonic, with something a little dark and green in there. It is much thicker than the original, and noticeably, you know, more kind of richer, and yeah. Under the aldehydes, there's that dance between the green and soft sweet florals. The black currant is still quite syrupy, but not too fruity. It's not like a ribena, it's just a kind of thick, dense, rich black currant. There's also a creamy feel, probably from the sandalwood, and it does start to open up a bit as it develops actually, with the cyclamen and the rose kind of freshening the gorgeous pinkness up. The resinous base smooths, but it's still about the musks and the aldehyde kind of ruling this one. And after a few hours, it's not one that actually changes a lot, much like the original. It's a nice patchouli that comes through, and the aldehydes soften, and it's more emphasised on the muskiness and the beautifulness. After many hours, it's that musky pink rose and the fizzy aldehydes. Something that I can kind of describe as like a biteable wood with a lovely powderiness and the pinkness. Now this one's brief because it's not an overly complicated fragrance, and like the original, it is just like it's like a classic 80s fragrance, which is by no means a bad thing. I like it. It's that kind of airy, aldehydic, snuggled kind of into a cardigan with a kind of soft rose perfume and that on it. It's really beautiful. It's one of their most simple fragrances, I think, and it is of its era, but it still smells magnificent. Now, is it worth owning this if you've got the original? Yes. Weirdly, I've got to say this, I'd be harsher on the others than this perhaps, because this is very similar. It's not exactly the same, and different points are emphasised, but this does have a lot more depth. You can see the point of this one being an extrait. The original is it's not an EDT, but if you look at it as like an EDT one, kind of fresh, easy, summer breezy, snuggly in that. This one perhaps pushes a bit more versatile. You could get away with this being a snuggly summer nights one, or cold autumn's day, or winter's one, and I think I do find it very, very beautiful. If I had the choice, obviously I'd go for the cheaper one because I'm not a millionaire. They aren't that different, but I see the point of this one. Not why it costs £200 more, but I do get the point of it. And it is a very loved one, this, despite its age, despite it smelling still a little bit on the dated side. It's a good one. So that is Dear 40. So Epic 56. Now I do really like Epic, the original one actually. It's a surprise because isn't it in the black bottle, this, or the dark green one? Dark green, I think. And yeah, it's very good. So anyway, this one opens with a dark, chewy greenness with a little pink pepper, and that tea note's quite prominent to start off with. It's much like the original with a pink feel and that, and the cinnamon and the frankincense are quite prominent. It's almost a little fruity feeling, I'd say. The oud and the gaiac come through the most from the base, and as it develops, the iris and rose mix together nicely with a metallic twang. It's not too much, but I'm presuming that's from the geranium sitting behind it. The tea and the frankincense are still prominent, and after an hour or so the woody notes and the patchouli move up. Still, it's got that very pink rose geranium iris thing, and it is fairly similar to the original, just a bit richer. The cinnamon adds a plasticky sweetness over it all at some stage. It is very pleasant though. And many hours into the dry down, you get a nutty woodiness with the pink hints and the tea and the smooth resins and the lovely musks. I like this one. I like it a lot, and I like the original. This is one I would say, is it worth it? If you're a super fan of the original, yes, I suppose so, but paying £200 more, I don't think it warrants that. I don't think it needs to be thicker and richer, if you get what I mean. It's almost a little rose milkshake-ish in some stages. And again, in the original, I really like that, and it suits the lightness. Well, it's not a light fragrance, it's an Amouage, isn't it? But it's more kind of versatile and wearable. This one, don't get me wrong, is lovely. It is beautiful. And again, if I was Mr. Moneybags or getting sent free bottles, you know, you'd go for it, wouldn't you? But all in all, you don't need both, unless you, like I say, you're a super fan. And if you were looking to which one to get, my advice would be to go for the original, because I just don't think there's enough interesting about this one to go for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. Really smooth, really classy, really elegant, and it's a good version of it. But yeah, alright folks, that's Epic, is it 56? Which of course makes it the most oil high concentrated one, I believe. Again, no criticism, like I say, I like it, but Now On a Woman is one I am fairly familiar with, and obviously I've got a sample of the original and I tried it. It was a beautiful white floral. Didn't blow me away or overexcite me, but it is very beautiful, and I can see it's just a classy, elegant one. But I mean, this is one thing before we get into this Amouage do really well. It's beautiful, kind of more simple, elegant, classy fragrances. They do that very well. So yeah, anyway, I'll try and compare them as I go through. This is the first one I'm filming, but obviously alphabetically I don't think it will be the first, but yeah, you get where. So it opens with a rich, creamy green jasmine and lily of the valley. The rhubarb is a little more noticeable than in the original, but in a different way. It's not so much sharp in this one, it's more a kind of sweeter feeling rhubarb. And also what I tend to find more noticeable in this one as well is the coriander, adding that kind of green, sweeter, fresher feel, which you don't so much get in the other one. And there's a carnation spice feel there too, and it opens lovely, not miles apart from it. There's also a kind of nutty feel there. I'm not entirely sure where that's from. Maybe the things that kind of sit under the florals, the kind of more resinous things. The greener elements definitely stand out more early on with this one than the original. And after about 20 minutes, the rhubarb kind of freshens it up, but fades in and out, in and out. It's not a dominant note, and it's not a big bitter, horrible, acky rhubarb. And the white florals and something a little tea-like starts to kind of dominate it. By tea-like maybe a green tea. You know, that kind of smooth, kind of calm. Well, it smells of tea, doesn't it? Green tea gives you. And after a good few hours, it dries down, nicely musky, gorgeous big white florals, the hints of the carnations, and the woods push through a bit more. Again, it's relatively simple. It's not a million miles apart from the original. Obviously, it's much smoother, and different elements kind of pop. But I wouldn't say. I think if you like On a Woman, you'll like this. Again, it's one of them where I'm going to be saying this about them all, isn't it? Do you need both? If you're a fan, yes. If you like it and you've got one of them, I don't think you need the other one. And I can see this one is often described as a kind of wedding scent. I think Cherie, the top note, was pondering this one, and yes, it is that one. And it's a white floral one that is just pure elegance and pure class. But for me personally, and don't get me wrong, I love some kind of the more beautiful, easygoing Amouages. It just lacks a bit of something. I'd like just a bit of something extra in there. But anyway, that is Honor 45. Next up is the famous one, probably the one you'll be tuning into this video for, or you've already tried and you're most curious about, etc. And that's Interlude 53. Now then, we know what I think of Interlude and Interlude Black Iris. Black Iris, I just don't understand the point of it really. It's very similar. It doesn't take off that green edge. In fact, the greener leather is stronger in that, I find, than in the original, but it exists. So here's the other flanker. I think this was the first of these Exceptional Extraits, wasn't it? And that's Interlude 53, like I say. So this one opens with the familiar smoke, incense, sweet myrrh, sugar, from the original, followed by a harsh green burning oregano, so that's still there, with a touch of bergamot. At this stage it's dense, and it's this kind of dance between the bitter oregano and the sweeter opoponax, with a slight green leather and patchouli under it, with the incense which never leaves. As it develops, thankfully the greener herbs move back a little and the greenness of the leather pushes up. There's also a gorgeous kind of smokiness and smoothness from the opoponax, and the incense is also there too still. That familiar contrast of the smooth and the sweet with the harsh and the bitter of the originals. It does obviously smooth out after an hour or so, and the incense is perhaps a bit stronger, mixing with the smooth resins and the bitter greenness, and it dries down similar to the original. Perhaps it's smoother, the resins, the smokes and the green leather linger much longer and longer through it, well, forever basically. And that weedy vibe, that kind of cannabis leather, dirty greenness is there on and on and on, and then maybe the next day it's basically the opoponax and a bit of smoke, and it's lovely. Now, like I've said, am I a lover of it's a masterpiece, the original, no denying that. This is why Amouage became so famous. There was no fragrance like this, and it's very Middle Eastern smelling, it's divisive, it's not easy to love. I don't think Black Iris improved that at all. That just the most pointless release they've ever made to me. But this one, yeah, it's richer, perhaps a bit smoother, but all them elements from the original is there. Instead of, you know, I think Black Iris is stronger on the green leather and the oregano fades faster. This has both. The oregano's still there with its bitterness, herbs on a bonfire, and the green leather really does take over as you go into the far dry down. Nice. If you're a fan of the original, of course you'll love it. But if you're not a fan of the original and you're looking for something a bit smoother, less of that damn oregano, this is not the one for you. It's still there, it's still very prominent. Whatever you hear influencers say, it is there. I mean, remember the nonsense about the Black Iris, how it even, up to someone, apparently it allegedly smelled like Dior perfume. No. And this again has them harsh elements, but you've got to remember what makes this a masterpiece is all these elements. And if you love the original, is it worth getting this? If you're a mega fan, you got loads of money, yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. For me, the original is on its own that same masterpiece. It's rich enough, it's wonderful enough, it's unusual enough, it's smoky enough. I'm not... Again, this is for the fans, isn't it, really? So yeah, that's Interlude 53. So yeah, hopefully you can hear me over the winds. There is a storm, but this is as sheltered as I can get it, and obviously I need to get these filmed and edited so I can actually put them out. So Jubilation 40. Now I am a fan of the original, it's very nice. I think it's kind of this dry, spicy, beautiful woody one with this kind of boozy fruitiness. Anyway, this one, it does open with a gorgeous familiar blackberry and Havana, with the slight kind of dirty, very earthy woody clothes, oud, patchouli, and nicely deeply under it all you get a little bit of cinnamon. The opening to this one is a lot more, it's got a lot more going on, and it is a lot kind of more divisive. It doesn't last long, but I think whereas you won't struggle with the original, you could potentially struggle with the opening of this. The cinnamon adds a touch of a slight, to me, a slight menthol redness and a bit of sweetness, you know, like a cinnamon ball or something like that, or an aniseed ball, something quite like that. And there's an almost boozy fruitiness with the resins still kind of woven in there. The fruits are dark and juicy actually, and they do come back. It's that ancient box of woods, spices, resins like the original was, but it's thicker and richer at this stage. The blackberry and blackcurrant goes nicely with the leathery feel and the resins to me, and after a couple of hours it's kind of the turn of the spices and the patchouli which start to dominate. There are still hints of the dark fruits, but it's much earthier and woodier, much like the original again, except maybe this time there's a kind of smoky, leathery, dusty books and boxes that come. The leather is perhaps a bit more noticeable. Maybe it's just more smoothly blended in there and amped up a little bit. And long into the dry down, it's like a fruity honey with the resins and the smooth musks, and it's really beautiful. It's even again a little bit boozy in the far dry down. Yes, of course I like this one. It's absolutely beautiful. The thing is, again, is this worth it? If you own the original, you don't, well, in my humble opinion, you don't need this. If you own the original and you feel it could be a bit richer and a bit sweeter and a bit thicker, I'm not just saying that because this is an extrait, then I get that, because the original is quite, it's like a dry desert day, but not cloying. This isn't cloying, but it's got that oppressive heat about it. Everything's kind of expanding more and what have you. It is very nice. Again, if I had the choice to buy which one, I quite like the naughty opening of this one, to be honest with you. Although with everything being amped up again, the patchouli stage is quite a lot. So I don't know which one I prefer. I'd like them both, but I don't think you need both, is my point. So that is a Jubilation 4. So this one for me was unexpected. Let's just start by saying that. Now, I am a fan of Reflection Man. You can't really not be. It's very clean, it's very classy, white shirt, easy one. But again, it's not one I've really got excited about or wanted to own particularly, because it's, when would I wear it? It's not my kind of fragrance, generally speaking. But I love it. But again, you know, would I love it enough to own it? So Reflection 45 anyway. Get into it. It opens with a big blast of the orris, but this time the benzoin and the sweet resins are right up the top, straight there in the kind of first few minutes. And I don't know where from, but there is a little bit of a kind of pleasant smoky touch there. The aromatic notes are there too, like the original, adding a fresh sweetness with the jasmine, but being maybe more in the back. So the aromatic notes, rather than being kind of right up front and it being bright and fresh, sit further back in this one. And it's very smooth, and the resins and the tonka give it much more depth and much more of a kind of traditional Middle Eastern ambery richness. You know what I mean by that. It's got that body, that heft, that kind of elegance. I also think there might be a little hint of ginger that comes in and out. It's something that smells like it, adding a really nice touch. And as it develops more, the jasmine comes through more with the aromatic notes, and there's something in this one. There's musks obviously in all of them, but I think the musk in this one is particularly forward and particularly really nice. I really enjoy it. And after a couple of hours, it's not totally changed. There is a bit of that dry smokiness is still kind of kicking about in there, and the smooth resins grow. And I'd say the aromatic feel is more like a dry sage note, like dry clary sage. It's not got as much sweetness or chewy bright sweetness about it, and there's even a slight mintiness, and I'm not sure where that's from, whether there is mint or it's one of the aromatic notes starting to give off more of a minty kind of feel. And the gorgeous benzoin and resins still linger in that lovely base. It's bloody gorgeous, to be fair. And after a good few hours, it's very close to the original now, with the musks and the now more toned down resins. Now this one's I've waffled on a lot about it. Like I say, the original is nice and very classy. This one, I thought I'd feel the same about it, but then more amplified resins, even that weird gingery feel, the musk's been pushed up as well, and the fact it kind of concentrates, the jasmine is less bright and less spring-like, if you like, and less sweet, and it's kind of toned down and mixes in with this a lot better, and the smoky touches is a nice different change, a different element about it. But all in all, I think I did absolutely love this one. If it wasn't, you know, £1 million, yeah, I think this will be up there. Now bearing in mind when I'm filming, this is only the second one I've been wearing through, and I'm scared I might like others. But yeah, if you like reflection, I don't think this is redundant to have both, because they both do different things and suit different occasions actually. This having much more of a kind of warm, resinous kind of feel about it isn't just a white shirt fragrance. This is a very much a dressed up, going out. It's even a little bit seductive. It could be a kind of date night fragrance, or going to a restaurant fragrance. I think anyone would smell just heavenly in this. And I like, obviously they're the same formulas, aren't they, I believe, but this one with that extra concentration just adds a lot more, and adds a lot more things that I love. Like obviously I love my good resins and things like that. So yeah, beautiful one. That's Reflection 45. So thanks for watching, folks. Have you tried these Exceptional Extraits? Have you tried any of the older Extraits? Did you find them worth it? Are there any that you want to try? Do you think there's any fragrances that aren't these Exceptional Extraits that they could do that to? Are you an avid kind of Amouage collector? Would you own them even if they weren't really much different or worth it? Like I say, my personal experience is they were good. Don't get me wrong, they were good, and obviously they were X-straight, what you'd expect. They were obviously a smoother blend. Obviously with them being so high concentration oil, they're not bigger or anything like that, because of course they're not. There's nothing to pump them off you. I think we could tell Reflection was the one that surprised me the most with just how much I liked it, and that's because, to be honest, it was very different from the original Reflection. Had a lot more going on. Same notes, obviously, it's the same formulations, isn't it? Just everything's up, and it was really really beautiful. I was not the biggest fan of Reflection generally, because I find it a bit boring for an Amouage. It's very classy, very elegant, but this one just did something. Jubilation again, it just became too similar to the original. And the same with Interlude. You keep hearing it. Every version, you know, the Black Iris one, yeah, it's much smoother, it's much easier to wear. That awful burning green herbs, that's much less. It's not. Who are these people? Just be honest, it's much the same. And anyway, you've just seen the video, you don't need me to ramble on and on about them. Thanks for watching, folks, and bye.